Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, here with another raw file edit of the week with a very, very funny special guest. We'll see how funny he is, actually, this week. But he'll be coming up next to edit this photo because this is kind of the style of photo that he normally would edit, more of a fashion-y type of thing because that's what he shoots. So this file came in, and they also sent in their high-res JPEG, which I have not looked at yet because I want to make the corrections to how I would make the edit before I take a look at theirs, because I don't want to ruin, I don't want to go a different direction that I may not have gone because I saw which direction that they went. So this is what I'm going to do with this file. Well, let's start off with how it was taken. 1/50th of a second, f10, ISO 800, 18 millimeters with the 18-55. I guess it's Canon, and it's a Rebel T1i. Pretty big file coming out of the T1i, a 20 megabyte CR2 file, which is Canon's RAW file, out of one of their lower end cameras. 800 ISO, as you can see from this camera, is really pushing it, especially with that 18-55. But what I do know is that this is from a trash the dress photo shoot. So I guess it's after the wedding, and they wanted to just trash the dress, and they went to this interesting place. It looks like a rail car, and yeah. So how would I edit this? What would I do first? Well, I personally am not a huge fan of skewed angles when it comes to photos. So what I'm going to end up doing here is straightening out the angle, which is going to end up basically cropping the image, but it's going to make it straight, and it just looks painful to me when I see a shot like this where the angles are like this. Like my mentality is, if the photo can't stand on its own in a horizontal or a vertical, then maybe it's not strong enough, and putting it on an angle may not help it. That's my personal feeling on that, and the whole thing here is, to see what we come up with editing the file, just to show you guys as many different samples as possible. This may not be how I would edit my file always, especially with the cropping and straightening of the angles, but I'm just doing it based on this image and how I would want to see this image. So here we go. I go and I get the straightening, the angle tool, and I'm finding what would be straight, and that would be straight. And you can see how you can move it a little bit, but I can't go much left and I can't go much right. So I want to keep the writing here, and I'm going to lose a little bit of the dress. I hit enter, which locks in the crop, and to me this is much stronger. But that's me. I think that's much stronger because it's straight on. So how would I edit this? Well, it's a little on the underexposed side, so I'm gonna bump my exposure, and it already makes it come out much better. I don't mind that the dress is cut off. I'm actually gonna crop it one further, just so that I am touching the dress on both sides, so that not one, you see how one side would be in and the other wouldn't be. I think it feels much better if, there we go, if the dress wasn't, if it's cut here and cut here. That to me is better. So I've already bumped my exposure. I'm going to bump my contrast. Boom. Let's see what we can do with this color, because I'm going to take out some color. I may end up going black and white in the end, but maybe as a second, because the color is pretty vibrant from what is out here. Darken my blacks a little bit. And I know a lot of you yell at me if I touch fill light and say that I've never used it before. Well, I rarely use it in my photos, but I have touched it in the past just to do some things. But I also noticed that if you start using fill light way too much, you get addicted to it, and it sometimes detracts from your image, because now you're starting to just lose your shadows and things like that you would have had in the past. No, I don't like that. Way too far. Boom, pulling back. No, don't want that. I'm going to pull that back to 5. Go back with some more exposure here. My contrast is all the way up. Do I want clarity down, clarity up? I'm just going to leave it plus a little bit. Not going to really mess with this vibrance and saturation going down, but what about going up? Oh, it's holding up pretty well. Let's see the difference between that. Wow, not very much. Even though I'm pumping the vibrance, it's not going very far. And saturation, I definitely don't want to move too much, because she's going to turn a bright orange. So even cropped, this is holding up pretty well. Yellow, pulled out just a little bit. I don't want it to look too blue. Let's see what happens if we pulled all the red out. Ooh. Okay, you know what? It's not something I would normally do, but I'm taking the red out. Look what happened to her lips. Look at the color that just happened there. It's interesting. It's really interesting, and that's what's cool about these raw edits is you start to see different things that you may not have seen in your own work because you're more free to just play around with the settings and see what happens. Now, I don't have a problem doing that. So that's if you add the red. I'm taking all the red out. Look what happened to her lips. Oh, no, that's not going to work. It's very interesting, though. I'll remember that one for the future, taking the orange out. So I got that. What else could we do here? Well, that was playing with the luminance. No wonder why it didn't do too much. Let's see. Hue, saturation. There's the red. That's even if you took out more red. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm taking out the more red. I'm going for the gothic look on this. Just for fun, we're going to go with the gothic look. Plus, I like how the rust in the background is looking. Yeah, I'm just going to the extremes with this just because what happens if I put this luminance back in? Now I'm taking it out. Boom. Goodbye. Now bringing it back to here, the saturation. Nope. Don't like it going too zombie-ish, but I like this. I'm liking the feel of how weird it is. And again, that's the fun of experimenting here. You're starting to get a feel for different things happening, things that you may never have noticed or may never have touched yourself. So there we go. I'm going to do that. What would black and white end up looking like? Just a regular shot. So I'm going to stick with color. I'm going to leave it with this weird looking thing. That's where it started out. That's where I'm going to end it. I like how we went from pink on the lips to now like black with pink. It's kind of given that gothy, interesting look. I know this is just off the wall, but that's the fun of it. So that's where I'm going to go. Guest, you're up.
Hello, my name's Danny. I'm from Three Legged Thing, and Jared has sent me this picture. I'm going to put it straight into Photoshop. I don't use Lightroom. I have Lightroom because the other guys in the office use it, and in the studio they use it, but I've never used it. I don't know what it does. I've heard it's very good. I tend to use Capture One Raw when I'm doing raw processing because most of the stuff I do is on a Phase 1 back onto a Hasselblad H2, and Capture One's a phenomenal bit of processing. This image, I have cheated slightly. I pulled it up a couple of minutes ago just to have a look at it, and it was facing that way, and the process was there, and that to me was a bit dark. First thing I need to do is write it. You can't look at it the wrong way up. You can't work on it. So I've stuck about 3/4 of a stop on it. It's just a bit underexposed. I don't know whether that's the way it's been metered. It looks like it's been sort of metered to compensate, and this is so bright. What's happened is it's pulled everything else down. Let's open that up. Okay, first things first, it needs a crop, definitely. I think I'm going to lose some of the foreground grass because I don't think we need it, and I think we can lose some of this area. It's a bit distracting for me, if I'm honest. Might even come down a bit more on that. I think it needs pumping up slightly. This is a plugin called Ingenomic Portraiture. What it does is it enables you to select certain tones. It's quite a grainy shot, I've got to tell you. Seems quite grainy. It's a bit soft as well, so we're going to have to deal with that in a bit. This transitional area here, where it runs between shadows, it's actually probably better to see on this one. As soon as you pull the shot in, this is the original here and this is the process one, that's already slightly smooth. So this area here where it transitions between normal skin and shadowed skin, I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to whack up the contrast, and that's immediately brought some definition into it. I'm going to stick on a bit of brightness. I don't want to lose it too much. She's going to end up she's got quite pandered eyes anyway, so I don't mind. Yeah, that looks good to me. I'm just going to smooth off her skin slightly. Again, you've got these smoothing tools here. If I come in, this basically picks on individual sort of pixels and grains. It's supposed to recognise the grain more than the pixels, but it's difficult to tell with digital. I'm going to go quite heavy on it because I want to play with this shot. Yeah, that's nice. It smoothed it off nicely. We've suddenly have quite a powerful, much more impact. Now we can do more than that. I would tend to normally using the burn tool, I would sort of put a vignette, make a nice sort of size tool, and I'd put my own sort of vignette in. We have only got 7 minutes for this, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat slightly and use a process called Tiffen DFX 2. Now some of you might have Nik software. I've had this for a long time, and this is version 2 of Tiffen DFX. It's actually already on the vignette page, so if I reset that, that's how it normally comes up. I don't like circular vignettes on images that aren't square, and that is way too big anyway. There's 2 choices of rectangular ones. Ignore that phone. One is soft. Oh, good, somebody got it. One is soft and one is regular. The soft one gives a kind of rack focus here. You sort of lose definition. It looks like the old days when we used to stick Vaseline around the lenses. But this I think is too brutal for this, so I'm going to take it off that and I'm going to pull it right back. That's the image without a vignette on it. Oh, when it wants to catch up. If I start to pull it in, you don't want to go too far. My rule of thumb is this: if you put a vignette on something and somebody walks up and says, "You vignetted that, you've done it too much." You're just trying to just darken the edges, just pull the focus into this spot here. Yeah, there's a big difference there. I mean, you can see that the vignette's on. It is, I mean, again, it's a quick process, but if I do that and then that, you can see it come in, and I think it just adds to it. The last thing I'm going to do is, to me, I think it needs sharpening, so I'm going to go Image, take it into the lab color mode, click on Channels, click on the lightness channel, and if you go to Filter and then Sharpen and then Unsharp Mask, I rarely do anything above about 140% because I think you could start getting to real problems. If I just select an area, see, she's quite grainy, and I've smoothed that off using Genomic Portraiture. So I mean, it's obviously quite high ISO. I haven't looked at the EXIF data on this. It's either a high ISO or the underexposure has caused that. Threshold about 2, radius about 1 pixels, that's fine. I'm running it about 139%, that's perfect. I'm going to click OK. Click back onto Lab, Image Mode, RGB Color. And that, I think, is my finished picture. I can't see that I need to do any more to that. No. I'm going to leave it there.
All right, we're back. Danny, thank you for joining us from all the way over there in Stagton? Stagsden?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's awesome. So, yeah, but you just asked me, am I showing his RAW file? So what we have on the left is my full-res JPEG edit. In the middle is the photographer's take on the photo, and on the right is your take on the photo.
Yeah.
Any observations right off the bat?
Yeah, the first observation is that if that's his in the middle, he's put a white line right way around it, which is bizarre when he's used a really...
it has nothing to do... The white line is just there because in Lightroom.
Oh, I see. Okay, right. I don't use Lightroom, so I wouldn't know that. Yeah, the vignette's way too big.
Okay.
And he's oversaturated it, so she's virtually orange.
Well, and also pulled back on the clarity slider quite a bit, as well as took him to go out of focus.
Yeah. I mean, look, to be honest with you, why? I mean, what did he do? Shoot at f16 or something?
It was f10.
Why? I mean, he's using a wide lens. You're going to get so much depth of field if you shoot at f10.
Yep.
He needs to be running at sort of 2.8 to 5.6 maximum if he wants that as an effect.
Sure. No, I agree with you.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think depth of field's hard enough to achieve to get it right.
Yeah.
On wide lenses, you're just making hard work for yourself. If I was going to shoot the shot and wanted to do what he's tried to do, processing it, I'd have done it with a 200mm from a distance away.
Absolutely, 70 to 200, 2.8, focus right on her eye. I mean, I think part of the limitations, the camera is very limiting, and the 18 to 55 we know is a kit lens. But overall, let's look at editing. I decided to go with a crop because I'm not a big fan of weird angles.
See, I tell you, let me just tell you something about that angle thing, because it's one of the things I pointed out when I was doing my crop, is that I like the fact that he's gone for this kind of strange angle, and I'll tell you why. Where you've cropped it, to me, so you've used the upright on the right hand side as the edit against the side of the image as the straightener, but because he's got converging lines, because he's shooting from low with a wide angle, the left hand one's leaning out anyway, which makes it look like it's just not sitting right to me. I can see what you tried to do, but that's why I actually like the fact that he did that angle, because I think it shows a little bit of vision.
Yeah.
The only problem I have, your crop's a bit better than this, is that he's stuck her face right in the middle.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is, like I said in my video, that it's my personal preference that I don't like weird angles. That's just me, because it feels like the glass is going to fall over. But that's me. And when it comes to fashion and art and things like that, anything goes. So
and when it comes to weird angles, let's be honest, you're about the weirdest there is.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you very much. So you went. Is there did you go square because you shoot with a square format quite often?
No, actually, I didn't. I went square. It's an interesting question. I looked at his image, right? And if you look at his full frame image, the top left-hand corner, there is an edge showing from above the container or whatever it is that he's shooting against. Yeah. Yep. And that annoyed me. And then I looked at it and I thought, two things. One, it looks like he's shot her through a sniper rifle. I mean, she's like dead center. It's like if you put crosshairs on it, her face would be in the middle of it. Sure. And I don't like that as a composition style. I think you can do more with it. You either need to get more of the sky above it or bring it right down so that she's not right in the middle of the shot.
Sure.
But what detracted for me is the fact that, like, he's run this kind of rack focus thing over the guy's face to make him, seem like there's a greater depth of field. But the letters are still so visible. So clearly it detracts. For me, the focal point is her face, right? Sure. That's what you want to be looking at. That whole kind of area in the middle. I was going to point to it on screen, but of course, you can't see where I'm pointing. It's her sort of midriff and face is the focal point. So, is the focal point.
He did a great job smoothing it out, because you can see how rough it is at 800 ISO on that camera.
I think he's probably over smoothed it slightly, but I don't mind that. I think it works for it. Yeah, but the words at the top really annoy me. They just detract. You look straight at them.
Wow, we're stepping on each other. I like his edit. I like the color, the red. I like the smoothness. It's, like you said, a little too far. But I know that you would have gone further if you had more time, correct?
Yeah.
It seems...
I would have done. I'd have done more to the image. I think it's, when you look at mine compared to the two of yours, I've actually been quite conservative. It's still quite flat relative to the other two crops. You've gone quite harsh on the contrast.
Yeah, I usually go quite harsh on contrast. What I said in my video is that this may not be what I would do with my photo if it was mine, but I just wanted to see if I could just mess around and just see what I would come up with, because it's not my photo, so I would just play around and see what would happen. I mean, my style of editing is, I have a certain way of doing my type of photos, and then there's a certain way to do that other people have for theirs. And that's what's great about doing these raw edits, is you get to see three different things here, and you can find what works for you and just take a little bit out of it.
Yeah, and there's no rules. I mean, that's what the beautiful thing about this business we're in, Jared, is that, one person's art is another person's crap.
Sure.
It really is. I mean, I like all three. I think there's... The middle one, that the guy, I'm not criticizing this. Is just it's constructive criticism. I think has just been overly edited, and I make a point when I'm doing the vignette, because there is a vignette on mine, believe it or not. I think personally, if you put a vignette on an image and you can look at it and immediately see the vignettes there, you've gone too far.
Yeah, well, that definitely, that top left corner in theirs, I would have loved to have gotten rid of that little white spot. Just that little thing. I mean, it's definitely an interesting photo. And it's going to lead to a whole... What was that?
It's a great shot. I think it's a great shot.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of interesting raw edits for people to do, because we have 3 distinct, different edits here, with me taking out vibrance or taking out the luminosity, luminance of the red and giving her a gothic look, to the guy in the middle doing a ton of post-processing to blow the guy out of focus in the background, to smoothen out the image, to get rid of the grain, and to yours, which is a very realistic, slightly flat. Do you normally go flat, or do you...
Well, no, I don't think it is flat. I think if you look at it compared to the raw file, it's much, much punchier. And actually, I think it looks flat next to... I think the middle one's oversaturated and your one's really contrasted.
Sure.
So it's a very, very difficult comparison, because my eye is now compensating for looking at yours, and mine does tend to look flat comparatively. So,
You're right.
See, when I'm processing images, I'm doing it for magazines. So that's what I'd want in the mag.
Right. Yeah, and that it looks very clean. When I just look at that itself without looking at the other 2, it stands very well on its own.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any final words for you to everybody out there?
I would say the very last thing I would say on this image is if you're shooting something that is as prevalent as a white bridal dress, I think you need to do one of 2 things. You either need to bracket the exposure, because it looks to me like he's done a spot metering and it's taken the metering from the dress, which is what's caused it was underexposed. I had to pump it up by about 3/4 of a stop. And I think that's the camera. I think he's not, a lot of people don't get into the manual side of things. And I think if it was me, I'd have metered from the grass. I'd have pointed the camera down at the grass, taken my meter reading straight off of that, because that is just a very kind of average tone in the image.
Sure.
And I'd have let the meter do the work from a much simpler color than white. But apart from that, just get it right in camera.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to leave with. If you have the ability to do if you want to blow the background out and blow the guy out in the background, then definitely try to do as much as you can in the camera, because it's going to save you a heck of a lot of time later, and it's just going to look more natural. Danny, thank you very much for doing this.
Absolute pleasure.
All right, so guys, keep sending in your RAW files, and be sure to send in your high-res JPEGs as well, so we can compare all 3 to see what your original vision was versus what whoever we edit with each week. So you can send those RAW files to froknowsphoto@gmail.com. Subject line RAW file edit would be fine. But yeah, let's keep going with people, fashion, portraits. I had some requests for some male models from some of the ladies who would like to see some male models come out. So, male models come out just to take pictures. Danny, we're not looking at you. Are you pointing to yourself? Yeah. Anyway, so that's it.
I'll do it.
You can send in some pictures of yourself. Don't worry. Danny, where can they find you on the internet?
Listen, threeleggedthing.com. Is where you can find us, and we're coming into the States in the next couple of months, so we'll see you there.
Sounds good. All right, guys, great job. Get editing. Don't forget to put them in the forum, put them on Facebook, and let's see what you guys come up with, because this photo could go many, many, many different ways. Danny, thank you. Jared Polin, froknowsphoto.com. See ya.